Welcome back to the BTS Happy Hour podcast. I'm your host, Andrea. This week, a new song from Benny Blanco, BTS, and Snoop Dogg came out, Bad Decisions. So this marks the first historic collaboration between Benny Blanco, who's an American producer, rapper Snoop Dogg, and South Korean boy group BTS. And it's described as an electronic synth-pop song single released in August 2022. So I think this is a really great pop song. It immediately hooks you. I saw somewhere that Benny Blanco says he worked on this song for a year. So that's a lot of dedication. Sounds kind of like BTS, work on something a long time and make sure it's perfect. And we don't know how long ago BTS was brought in to that whole process, but maybe not right from the beginning, since I don't see that they're on the songwriting credits, so they didn't participate in that part of it. It says it's written by Benny Blanco, Mike Posner, Blake Slatkin, Cashmere Cat, and Snoop Dogg. So is all taken care of on the American side, it seems like, with the songwriting. And the lyrics are pretty much about falling in love with someone and wanting to be together all the time and wanting to make bad decisions together. And Snoop's part is really good. He's done many collabs in the past. He is a frequent collaborator with other pop artists. And Benny Blanco said that he's a legend and he's very nice. He loved working with him. And Benny also had great things to say about BTS and working with them. And I wouldn't expect him to say anything negative since he's ARMY. I'm sure that BTS lived up to what he thought of them and how great they are. So I don't think BTS's personalities are an act. They're very nice in person. Yeah, and I was going to say Snoop was able to keep his rap clean with no profanity, so I'm sure that was something that Big Hit wanted for the song, to keep it clean, especially if you want it to play on the radio. You don't want any profanity in there. But Snoop, he can definitely do that, and I liked his part. And I think Benny Blanco did a great job producing it and coming up with the lyrics. I think it's very catchy. It goes along great with Left and Right, the Charlie Puth and Jungkook song that was released a few months ago. So I think this is great. Part of the Chapter 2 era, which seems to have a lot of collabs in it. So the MV came out. The premise of it was that Benny Blanco is BTS ARMY, and he wakes up in his mansion and he's getting ready for a BTS concert that night. And so you assume that, the end of the video is going to be he gets to the concert and has a great time with BTS. And, it doesn't go that smoothly. I think he filmed it in his own house. It looks like an LA house, or I guess it could be a set that looks like an LA house inside. And he has his whole bedroom really decorated with BTS posters and memorabilia and albums and stuff. And he is getting ready to wear his Jimin Dynamite outfit to the concert, and he has it in a plexiglass storage, like it's on display. And I saw on his Twitter, he said that he had to have this outfit custom made by his friend, and because the clothes that Jimin actually wore in Dynamite, like those brands, I guess they discontinued those clothes, or it just wasn't available for him to just buy. So I think that was like, attention to detail there. And I'm assuming since he's dressed like Jimin, that's probably his bias, because why would you select to wear the same outfit if it wasn't your bias. So I don't think he's ever said explicitly who his bias is, but I think that's what we can infer from that choice. And I remember before the video came out too, there were some theories about, okay, what is it going to be in the MV? Like, what is the plot of it? And I saw that one idea was Benny Blanco tries to infiltrate BTS by impersonating Jimin and like dressing like him, and I guess his makeup and hair done like him. And then people are like, oh my god, that's gonna be like Ollie London is what he's trying to do in real life. And this is kind of based on that the teasers where Benny Blanco was asking if he could join BTS, so it makes sense, this theory, but that turns out that was not the plot, and I think that's for the best. Like, what they did do was pretty funny, and I think it gets into like weird territory if it's him trying to look just like a BTS member. So it brings those Ollie London comparisons, which most people don't like that guy. They think he goes way too far. I mean, he's free to do whatever he wants as a fan, of course, but some people are like freaked out by his dedication to it. And so the plot turned out to be he's just a regular BTS army, and he is getting ready to go to the BTS concert in LA, and it shows him doing his preparations at his house. He's baking a cake, he's got a poster that he's made, and he's got the outfit, and he's even got all the choreo that he learned from Dynamite. So he's very, very army, and they got good detail on that. So once he's gotten ready, he's got his cake, he loads up his car. He has a really nice car too, so it's crazy that I heard that he used his actual car filming this, and he drives to the stadium and crashes his car in the video, and he smears his cake all over the front of it. And so since that's his real car, I'm like, oh my god, I wouldn't have volunteered my own car if that was me, but that's funny. Yeah, so in the video, Benny Blanco, he runs off to the stadium since he crashed his car, and he's stopped by the stadium's janitor, and it turns out he's a day early for the concert, and he's just going to stay there until the next day. And so that's how it ends. And that guy who plays the janitor, apparently that is a friend of Benny Blanco's, and he directed the video. I didn't like cross-check that to see who the names were of people, but I'll take his word for it. And so I think, they did a good job with it, directing it. It had humor. It had a punchline at the end. And I think the fact that, BTS is not in the video, they just use some footage of them from their Dynamite video. And I think that's actually kind of funny because it's just very like low effort. And even in the promotional pictures, like all they did was like cut and paste their pictures from Dynamite photos. It's like, okay, let's not do that much work and make it look very like homemade. And I think that goes with Benny Blanco's personality a lot. It seems like, yes, he worked on this music for a year, but then otherwise his work seems like intentionally just like slapped together at the last minute. Like that's his like calling card, I would say. Like, like a very spontaneous guy. Like that's what his TikToks seem to be about, just like doing things spontaneously. And so that's what it seemed like putting this song together. Even though it did take him a whole year, he just makes it look like, we just did this last minute. So that's kind of his signature. And there's also a lyric video out, and it's pretty clever. It's a little bit similar to Jungkook's My You video, where it has the words on the screen and it's in the form of whatever social media is being used. So like Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, like being the the titles of videos, or if it's a comment on that page, that's the form of the words that are showing on the screen. So I think that's pretty clever. And you know what I think they should do if they have time? They should release a B-side video, and it shows the vocal line film their side of the story of when they're getting ready for the concert, or actually like whatever they're doing that day, because it isn't actually the day of the concert. So they'd be hanging out doing fun stuff in LA, or having a company dinner, or doing like, other fun things the day before the concert, and then, intersperse that with like cuts of Benny Blanco on his way to the stadium and all the stuff that's going wrong with him. So I think that would be a really fun video, because it shows like the opposite perspective. And, maybe when they were filming this, BTS, they didn't really have time to all show up, coordinate the four of them to help with the video. But, there might be a time where their schedules would allow it, and they could film something that has mostly them in it sometime in the next couple months. I'm sure they could find time if they just like plan out what exactly they want to film. And it could even show them being like using places in the high building. Oh, the other thing is they filmed this in LA, I'm assuming, but the stadium that they were outside of, to me it didn't look like SoFi Stadium, which is where a BTS concert would be. That is the only place it could be, because it needs to be big enough. So I don't know what stadium that is, but it didn't look like SoFi, if anyone knows what that looked like. Maybe it was just some other, convenient stadium to film at that's open air, because SoFi, it has a roof on it, so that's why I didn't think it was SoFi. But people from LA, they probably know better. It might be one of the soccer stadiums, or some other one that's not widely known about. So Benny Blanco did some kind of crazy things to promote this song. I had no idea before this that he was this wacky character. He put the song on a USB drive. This was the day before the release, and he hid it somewhere. And I think he was streaming on Twitch, like to show what the location looked like. And then he was like, whoever finds this USB drive, they will have the song a day early. And so it looked like it could be anywhere. Like it's just outside in the woods, or some foresty kind of area. It could have been anywhere. And we know he lives in LA, and this could have been like in many different places. But I saw that people were actually really trying to figure this out. Like they're posting maps, and it's like, here's where I think it is. And I think someone was saying it has to have significance to BTS. So maybe it's where they filmed on, or, one of the other videos somewhere that took place outside. So I think, I'm not sure if people actually figured it out, because there was just very little clues to go on. And eventually Benny provided the actual address, and he said, hey ARMY, meet me there at the location, and we can all hang out when the song is coming out. So here on the West Coast, the song is coming out at 9 p.m. on a Thursday. And so he's asking ARMY, a bunch of strangers, to meet him in a dark forest in, kind of late at night. And, a bunch of ARMY went. I'm sure they didn't think that this was anything to be worried about. This is Benny Blanco. He's a celebrity. So, what's he going to do? And, if this wasn't about a song release, it would sound pretty sketch. It would be like, why does this person want to meet up with ARMY? That could potentially be a lot of women, and, would they be in danger? So, yeah, nothing bad happened. This was just a fun get together. Benny and a group of ARMY who, there are people who did go, and they look like they had a good time. They took some pictures with him and, with the USB drive. And eventually the police came, and I guess you're not really supposed to gather in a huge crowd on the top of this mountain or wherever it was in LA. So it looked like a good time, and very unorthodox marketing strategy. He also did some other pretty crazy things. He tattooed a QR code for the song on his face, which I don't know what the purpose of that was going to be. I mean, like, someone would have to scan his face with their phone. I don't know if it would work on a photo. You'd have to, like, be right next to his face. And aside from the fact that it's a tattoo, so it's a pretty permanent on his face. And it looked like a real tattoo. Like, his skin looked red and everything. So it looks like he really did that. I don't know. That seems like he went too far. But I guess it goes along with the whole theme of making bad decisions. And another one that I saw was that someone said, I dare you to go to Shake Shack and order this type of burger. And then it's a burger that has 15 slices of American cheese, 15 slices of cheddar, and cheese sauce. And it looked pretty disgusting. And I'm sure it was 1,000,000 calories. I don't know if he ate it, but he did post a video of him ordering it, and the manager had to go and make it. And it didn't show him eating it, but let's assume he did, because I'm sure he wouldn't mislead us. He actually ate that. That was part of the challenge. And I was on his TikTok just seeing, like, what else happened with Benny Blanco. And if you go back a little bit, like a few months, it seems that he has some kind of beef with Charlie Puth, which is pretty funny because Charlie also collaborated with BTS recently. As we all know, Left and Right, the song he did with Jungkook. But yeah, I guess he and Charlie Puth don't get along, or they love to make fun of each other on TikTok. I mean, I'm sure it's probably a fake beef and they just do it for content. So I'm not going to believe that. And even if they do hate each other, that's totally fine. I think they play it for humor, even if it's a true thing. So I just thought that was a pretty funny connection. Actually, maybe BTS filming a music video with Benny Blanco and Snoop Dogg may not have been a great idea. And it's possible that Hybe just said, scheduling issues. Because, like, literally, what if they were all in the same place? And, Benny Blanco and Snoop Dogg, they're kind of unpredictable. Like, I saw, there's a TikTok that Benny Blanco had, him and Snoop filming this video, and they're, like, both smoking weed, and, Benny Blanco's out there getting QR code tattooed to his face and doing all these crazy things. So maybe this was an intentional decision. And I think Benny Blanco seems to be really appreciative working with BTS, and he's been great to the fans, answering questions, and giving credit to ARMY for it doing so well. So I think it's a great song. In other Chapter 2 updates, after Lollapalooza, we saw that J-Hope went back to Korea, and this week he's been doing radio interviews promoting his album. And he looks very relaxed and happy, and, he's smiling, and I think it's his very kind of low-key promotion that he's still doing. I think that's great. And there's tons of fans that are showing up at all these radio stations to cheer him on. So, yeah, I was wondering if he still had any other activities to do. And it does seem that he's booked radio interviews at least, and maybe other types of interviews, because these are all with Korean radio stations. He might have more to do with the international media outlets. Although I haven't seen a whole lot of that. Maybe their chance was at Lollapalooza or right before, so I don't know if he has further things booked. But, that's what J-Hope's up to. And Jimin was in Chicago with him, as we know, but he hasn't come back yet. And we would have seen it because the media always covers when BTS comes back and they land at an airport. So far he has not come back, and we've seen that he is in LA because he took a picture with Benny Blanco the other day, and so they clearly met up at some point. And there's also some Instagram posts from producers who have met with Jimin. It looks like they're doing stuff in a studio, so it definitely appears that Jimin is working on his solo music with some of these other producers. And one producer is a guy named Tommy Brown, and he's known as a producer for Ariana Grande because he's worked on, I think, many of her albums. But this same guy has worked with other stars too. He's worked with Justin Bieber, The Weeknd, Kanye West, Doja Cat, Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion. And so, you can tell that this is a quality producer, and I don't know if that means, some of Jimin's songs are going to have that kind of pop R&B flavor, because that's kind of what it sounds like from who Tommy Brown works with. But yeah, I can't wait to hear what kind of a style Jimin's album is going to sound like. And P-Dog and Slow Rabbit are also in LA working with Jimin and these American producers. So some of these other producers that are posting about Jimin on Instagram, that seems like there were a lot of people present at one, studio session, or, all in the same place working on stuff. They're talking about this day was legendary and stuff like that. It's like, wow, what was happening there? Is this going to be like an amazing song or album, or were they like that blown away by what they're working on with Jimin? So very interested to see what that means, because like a couple of them are having Instagram captions like that. So they're raising people's expectations. We'll see what the hype is. So I think maybe the trip to Chicago, it wasn't totally out of his way, since he was going to go to LA anyway the week after. So maybe he just kind of like added to his trip, and it was just very convenient that he was able to fly into Chicago before that and support J-Hope. So I think that really worked out for the best, and everybody was like praising Jimin for being such a good friend and being there for him. And yeah, he's definitely a genuine guy, and like all the BTS members seem to be supporting each other in this time. It definitely seems like it's not like, okay, every man for himself in chapter 2 time. It's like each one of them is helping each other with their stuff if needed. So I think it's really nice to see the support for the other members. As far as Jin's activities, it looks like he has some different chapter 2 interests than some of the other members. I've seen that he went to a couple of movie premieres, which I'm not sure exactly the goal of those, other than, being social and doing something fun. But I'd have to imagine that he might be considering acting at some point. And so maybe he is using these events to network with other actors and producers and directors. And that way he can be aware of, what projects are out there and get more information, get familiar with people, like meeting them in person. And that way he can vet the offers that he's receiving, because I'm sure there's a lot of casting agents that are like, hey Jin, can you do our drama, and do you have time, and can you read this script? So that will give him more information. He's also working with a gaming company. We know that before BTS had a collaboration with MapleStory, and they worked on that and created some special stuff for the game. And Jin is, out of everyone, seems to be the biggest fan of the game, plays it all the time. And so it makes sense that they reached out to him again. And we're not totally sure what he's going to be doing and what this content will be. But according to this article, it says Jin will be fulfilling his dream of working at a game development company. The latest collaboration between BTS member and his favorite game, MapleStory, is a web reality titled Office Warrior Kim Suk-jin. Jin will be joining the game designers at MapleStory as a brand new intern, experiencing the life of an employee at a game development company. And it says that a couple days before, I think it showed Jin's like quote unquote resume when he was applying to be an intern at the MapleStory office. So it looks like they have some funny content planned that they're going to post where it looks like he's an intern at this company. So I think that's something to watch for. That sounds pretty good. And it's going to come out August 16th and August 18th. So this next story is something I never thought I would see Beavis and Butthead and BTS in the same sentence. But that seems to be what's happening. That's going to be a project. According to Billboard, the second Beavis and Butthead revival is about to make its big debut, which means a brand new set of music videos, in addition to TikTok and YouTube videos, for the characters to both roast and appreciate from the comfort of their couch. Paramount Plus confirmed to Billboard on August 3rd that the return of the Mike Judge created animated television show will feature videos from the biggest stars in pop music at the moment, including Olivia Rodrigo, Post Malone, Tyler the Creator, Camila Cabello, Cale Dodds, CNCO, and BTS. And according to The Hollywood Reporter, the second episode will see Beavis spilling that he's a member of BTS Army and revealing his favorite members of the K-pop supergroup. Beavis's fandom draws from Judge's own experience with the group. The show creator told The Hollywood Reporter that he likes BTS and popular genres of music, contrary to what fans of the show might think. And the popular series ran from 1993 to 1997 on MTV, and it was revived for one season in 2011. And this new reboot arrives on Paramount Plus on August 4th. So, that happened already. But I'll have to figure out a way to download that, I guess, since I don't have Paramount Plus. But this should be pretty hilarious. I like that BTS is spanning generations. And if you're not aware, Beavis and Butthead is a show from the 90s. It's very roughly animated. It's like in the early time before, everything's done on computers and stuff. But that was part of the charm, is that it looked pretty crappy cartoons. And this show was on MTV, and the premise was these two very dumb high school kids, Beavis and Butthead, and their adventures going to school and interacting with teachers and students, as well as working at their fast food job and talking to their neighbors. And basically everything they do annoys other people because everybody else is normal. And they're just troublemakers, and they're dumb, and then they do things that just like ruin a situation. So it's pretty funny, and it's like super 90s. Like anyone who grew up at that time, you've definitely watched a bunch of episodes of this. And one segment that they would have all the time is the characters would sit and watch music videos and comment on them and make fun of them. And this is back when MTV had music videos and they actually showed them, and they didn't just have reality shows. So that's, way back in the day that they had MTV. It was actually about music. But, now that I think of it, Beavis and Butthead commenting on videos is kind of the precursor to people on YouTube doing that. Like the whole reaction video genre of YouTube videos. So they kind of started that, so they get the credit. And if you're not familiar with Mike Judge, he's the creator of Beavis and Butthead, and he's also the creative force behind King of the Hill and Silicon Valley and Office Space. So that's a pretty iconic resume there. His IMDb has tons of hilarious stuff. I think he also did what was that movie? Oh, okay. Idiocracy. So that movie is hilarious, and I guess Mike Judge was behind that one too. So yeah, this should be pretty funny, and it's a crossover you'd never expect. You can listen to BTS Happy Hour on Samsung Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or visit btshappyhour.com. If you like the show, please take a moment to rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Weverse. Check out the merch store with BTS-themed tees and hoodies and more, linked in the description, as well as on the BTS Happy Hour Facebook page. Until next time, this has been the BTS Happy Hour. Thanks for listening, and remember, make every hour a happy one.